Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Pit Talk Pulling Pits and Opinions with their host, Gunny G, where service members help service members, period. Follow, like, subscribe everywhere you get your podcast, and I'm on social media platforms. Let us know how we're doing. Any criticism is good criticism. Let's get into it. Thanks for those listeners that are listening, for those followers and subscribers. I appreciate your time. We got a special guest by the name of David Wilson. I'm going to let him introduce himself. Sir, Mr. David Wilson, thank you for your service. Thank you for your time. Give the listeners a brief bio. All right. So where you're from, family, how long you served, whether you retired or just got out after four, duty stations and operations, if not field operations, whatever have you. Please, the floor is yours.
Well, I appreciate you having me on. Again, my name's David Wilson. I was born and raised in central Missouri, Lake of the Ozarks, and it's a very small town, 256 people. Uh, it's about 70 miles from Fort Leonard Wood. Uh, born and raised there, graduated high school, joined the Marine Corps in 1978. My father was a deputy sheriff. He basically put me in the Marine Corps, and started out as a grunt with 341. I went to Paris Island in the summer, which was a joy, and then went to Camp Geiger up at Camp Lejeune for Infantry Training Company. I became a mortarman. Was stationed with 2-6 there at Camp Lejeune afterwards. I became a forward observer, got the good fortune to go to Naval Gunfire School, Scout Swimmer School. We had some good people. It was a turbulent time in 78, right after Vietnam War, but I enjoyed it. Then went to Okinawa, transferred to 19. Was in 19 for almost 2 years before I went to barracks duty in Naples, Italy, and got there right after General Dozier was kidnapped by the Red Brigades. And I was put in charge of all the flag officer security. And the flag at the time was Admiral Crowell. And I know you guys are all too young to remember this, but Admiral Crowell, his next duty station he was the chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff.
Wow.
I was going to get out, and he decided that I wasn't going to get out. I was his personal bodyguard for about a year and a half. And he got me into counterintelligence, and which, in my opinion, is the best job in the Marine Corps. Everybody has their own opinion on that. So I went from private to gunnery sergeant on the enlisted side, and then picked up warrant officer, and basically everything from Beirut on I was involved in. So I was the first, well, myself and a lieutenant colonel was the first guys into Haiti after the coup,
Mhm.
and we were in there. And of course, the invasion didn't go on for another year and a half, but because of all the people, Americans that were down there. But was in there. I was at JTF 129 for several years, which was a predecessor to the Marine Raiders coming back to
Wow.
that. So I was a counterintelligence officer for that. Worked one of the TWA hijackings, Haiti, Tunisia, Egypt, Israel. I was in Israel quite a bit. Bosnia, we were the first MEU over there, and did some stuff. Worked the Italian airliner that was shot down, or the Italian C-131 that was shot down, recovery mission there. And then also whenever Grady was shot down, we did that recovery mission too. And then after that, let's see what happened. Somalia, of course, spent 9 months in Somalia. I mean, Desert Storm, obviously.
Jesus.
Uh,
Sir.
uh, and then I had a jump accident in 96, ended up going to the schoolhouse there in Dam Neck, Virginia, became the course director for the CI course and the interrogation course, retired after 20 years because I was going to be riding the desk because they took me out of jump status and everything after they messed up my left side of my body. And I was a private investigator for a couple of years, and 9/11 happened, went back to DIA after 9/11. From there, I went to Iraq. I worked Saddam's trial, ran the Witness Protect program for DOD during Saddam's trial.
Wow.
I was a TIF kicker for the Northern AO up in Mosul for a year and a half. And then I came back and I ran a DOD Advanced Interrogation Program course for 6 years. And we developed that advanced course for all the special forces and everybody. And then I went to Afghanistan for 5 years. I was the deputy director or deputy operations officer for the Joint Counterintelligence Unit for 5 years in Afghanistan.
My goodness.
And then came back, went to CDSE, which is a counterintelligence directorate for the government. I did that for a couple of years, and then I went to the Joint Personnel Recovery Agency and did some stuff for them for a couple of years, and now I came out west and I'm doing a contract for a big defense firm for DoD, and that's where I'm at.
Jesus.
That's it.
Wow. My goodness. Let me tell you something. You are just a walking lineage of the Marine Corps. My goodness.
I don't know about that, but I enjoyed my time in the Marine Corps.
I
It was a great, it was, I mean, it was, I enjoyed my time in the grounds. I really enjoyed my time with, I mean, I skipped over a few things. I was on the George Bush Sr.'s presidential staff underneath Mr. Gunthers. He was a special intelligence director there in the Marine Corps. That was a very neat tour. Can't really go into what we were doing, but it was a good tour. But yeah, I enjoyed the Marine Corps. The Marine Corps did me well. I mean, I got to travel. I've been to over 41 different countries,
That's
and
crazy.
that's not just traveling through countries. That's I've been to basically 41 countries where we're actually doing stuff. But
That's awesome.
so I've enjoyed it.
Which was your favorite duty station?
Favorite duty station? Well, I mean, I would have to say Italy.
Oh,
Uh, I mean, it was you know, back then the terrorism was really big in Europe at the time. That was in 1981 to 1983, right before he came into counterintelligence. And we had, you know, Admiral Crowell was there, General Miller. I mean, we had about 6 flag grade officers that we were running security for. And it was an interesting time
yeah.
because, I mean, you had to get him up, get him to work. We always had 2 Marines at their residence, one inside, one outside, 24 hours a day. And then the personal bodyguard was with the principal all the time. A lot of people don't like Naples. I mean, a lot of floats go into Naples, and I did 3 Met floats. Well, actually, I did 1 MAU and 2 MEUs back before the MEUs. They were MAUs, Marine
Nice.
Amphibious
Holy,
Unit.
that's history if you didn't
Well,
know.
that's going back in history a little bit.
Yeah.
But a lot of the units go into Naples, Italy, and they don't like it because a lot of stuff shuts down. The prices go up, you know, typical stuff whenever you know, you turn loose, you know, 1,100 Marines on a city, and yeah, they're going to take advantage of it.
Yeah.
But if you actually live there, I mean, it's a huge city. It's you know, an old city, and got to travel all over Europe uh, with the admiral. So yeah, I enjoyed that. But that's not your typical thing. You know, that goes from living in the field as Grant. You know, and you know, in '81s, we typically just took a poncho and poncho liner because you didn't want to carry all that shit because,
Yeah.
pardon the language, because you know, you had a bipod and barrel, you know, bipod's 45 pounds, barrel's 28 pounds. Back then we had the split base plate, 2-piece base plates. So, I mean, there's a lot of heavy stuff. So you didn't take a lot of stuff. And then you go from that to living in hotels and in Europe, traveling with an admiral.
Not a bad trade-off,
I
huh?
mean, yeah, it's a pretty good trade-off there.
What was your which duty station, if not operation, was the most kinetic for you?
Say again?
Which duty station, if not operation, was the most kinetic for you?
Connecticut. Well, I mean, I would have to go with my time with the JCIU in Afghanistan. We were out every day outside the wire. You know, counterintelligence is a little bit different than intelligence, where intelligence, they go out and recruit sources for intel, where counterintelligence, we recruit bad guys to infiltrate the bad guys' ranks and work from the inside there. I mean, our job was to get the information to put steel on target, and it was a good job. Obviously, I stayed there for 5 years,
Yes.
and we traveled. I mean, we were outside the wire every day, and we had units, you know, in Kandahar, Mez, Jalalabad,
Was that
Herat.
civilian after you retired?
Yeah, I was a civilian
My
at
goodness.
the time.
And you were not, were you
Uh,
married?
uh, well, that's another story entirely. So
Mm.
I started late in life. It was my second time around, and
Okay.
we'll just skip over the first part of it. She was with DIA, but anyway, we were married. I agreed to one. Okay, because I mean she's a little bit younger than me, and I agreed to one. Got three, 3 for 1,
Yeah.
2 girls and a boy. So when the
Congratulations.
so after she was pregnant, I deployed to Afghanistan, I was just going to go for a year because I mean it was good money and it was an
Yeah.
interesting job and everything. And it turned into a spectacular job. I mean, I like being active. I like being out, still doing stuff, and it was a good mission. And then once we had triplets, I mean, it was triplets are expensive. So I ended up staying for a few years, coming back and forth quite a bit. That's, yeah. So I'm married and I have 3 12-year-olds now.
That's awesome. That is awesome. I
So
would.
keeping up with them
Uh-huh.
is constant battle. But yeah,
You have 3 12-year-olds. How old are you, Dave, if you don't mind me asking?
I'll be 65 this year. But hey, I can still do everything I could do, back then. I just can't do it again tomorrow. I mean, I stay active. Still,
Oh.
still active, shoot 3 gun.
Hell yeah.
I mean,
That's awesome.
I
Thoroughly
run a team
indoctrinated,
on this.
huh?
What's that?
Thoroughly indoctrinated.
Oh yeah, the kids are actively involved in outdoor stuff and in the shooting community. Yeah, absolutely.
Gosh. Which was so we covered your favorite duty station, obviously is Italy. I mean, who wouldn't want to be in Europe for more than 1 year, right? And the most kinetic for you was obviously in Afghanistan with
Well, Afghanistan, Somalia. Now,
okay.
Somalia, I was still in,
Yeah.
in counterintelligence, you work in 3-man sub teams, usually warrant officer and a staff sergeant, Gunny, and then a sergeant or a staff sergeant and an interpreter. And you're out there on your own. I mean, you're out there running ops. You're doing stuff a lot of times on your own. Somalia was a interesting 9 months. It was active. It was good. Most of the time we were with either the Omanis or the Pakistanis. So that's always interesting working with foreign troops.
Which was yeah, it is. It is. I remember being in Afghanistan having to escort detainees from the detainee center to Afghani police, and it would just be interesting because they would be friendly for you at face, and then when they turn
Oh
around,
yeah,
they'd be talking about you to themselves, even though you had the interpreter, and they'd be like, the interpreter would be like, "Hey, just sit. Condition one, maybe."
yeah, yeah. We
So it would be an interesting time for
yeah,
sure. Every time we had to release somebody, it was for me, anyways. It was nerve wracking at times. Nothing that I had to pull the trigger for. Thank God, right? Um, but I understand a little bit, not to just not to your extent, but which was the most reward.
don't discount your experience. I mean, that's everybody's got different experiences and everything. But yeah, so you there at Bagram?
Yeah, so I was at Bagram, I was in Shank for a little bit, and then JBAD for a little bit. Kind of just flip flop right there. I was with
Yeah,
Task
what
Force.
years were you over there?
I was over there from 15 to 16,
Okay.
and
Yeah,
we
I
were
left there in May of 16. Yeah.
okay. Yeah, I was with Joint Task Force 310, based out of Fort Bragg.
Okay.
Yeah, it
Cool.
was fun. I enjoyed my time. I wanted to extend to a year. It was rewarding for me. Unfortunately, Marine Corps said I have orders to go to Iwakuni, Japan. So they said execute, and I said kill, and that's where we went after that. So, but for you, we covered the most rewarding, not rewarding, but the best duty station was Italy. The most kinetic, you mentioned. What was the most rewarding duty station for you, whether it was in uniform or civilian?
I would say whenever I was on the presidential staff, I mean, you get to see a lot of the intelligence community in the world that you normally don't get to see from just inside the military at the very highest levels, and it was eye-opening. To say the least, and you take that experience back with you on that. There was one of the most funny things, not that we're into telling funny stories. Whenever I picked up warrant officer, whenever I was on the presidential staff, of all the high ranking people, had then realized that I, for most of the time I was there, I was a staff sergeant because I literally got to wear the uniform with Gunny on it one time, and that was at my promotion. And they were shocked. To find out that it was an enlisted Marine doing that function and rubbing elbows with Schultz and Secretary of State and the Vice President and everything.
Wow.
I mean, a lot of people were very shocked at that, but that's how much faith the Marine Corps has in their staff NCOs to put them in the billets like that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
and everything. So it was very rewarding. That tour was.
Wow, that's crazy. I mean, Dave, sir, thank you for your service again. I wanna quickly touch your transition. It doesn't even sound like your transition. You're still working for the DoD. You still kind of like you have your foot in the
Yeah.
door, kind of so to speak. But in terms of transitioning from uniform to civilian, how was that for you? Was it any difficult?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't easy at all. It's still not. I mean, I still, I tried. I started up whenever I retired, I started up my own private investigative company. I mean, I had a good thing going. I mean, I had, Monsanto, Chubb Insurance, which is the largest insurance company in the US, Walmart. I mean, I had huge clients and I was very successful at it. And then, but when 9/11 happened, I was like, yeah, I'm going back. And I tried to come back in the Marine Corps. And the Marine Corps is like, "Oh, no, we're not really taking anybody back right now." And then 2 years later, they contacted me, and at this time, I was a contractor in Iraq making quite a bit of money,
Yeah, yeah.
and, said, "Yeah, we'll bring you back, we'll bring you back, at your rank that you retired." And I was like, "No, too late, you missed your chance."
Yeah.
And I know that a lot of guys think that they can get out of the military and they're going to jump into a job, that, and they are out there, and they should not sell themselves short. Okay. But they also can't think that they're going to do, 4 years in the Marine Corps and then get out and make $200,000 a year. Okay. Because, uh, what they're buying, what these big companies are buying is your experience and uh, and your leadership and those type of things. But the transition, getting back to what your question was, I don't know if I ever transitioned. I mean, I'm still, heavily involved in. I mean, I run a 68-man team on a DoD program right now. Approximately half the guys on the team are former military, and the rest of them are all engineers and stuff like that. I mean, it's crucial, to gain that experience from being in, and you don't even realize the experience that you're getting between the leadership courses and the leadership situations that you're put into, and just the way you carry yourself and the way you interact with people and everything else. Completely different than not all people, but a lot of people. And, that's a huge plus. You're out there and the old saying, if they're not bitching, they're not happy. But whether you're a grant or an intelligence or whatever it is, you're gaining experience every day that you can apply in the outside world. Okay. Uh, the, I still very active with Wounded Warrior, not the Wounded Warrior program, but with Wounded Warriors on that. I mean, we have a Wounded Warrior shooting team with the company I'm with. We take place in those. We actively recruit Wounded Warriors. And jumping back to whenever I was running the advanced interrogation course, we'd actually go to Walter Reed and we'd interview guys. And I mean, we took everything from double amputees. In fact, I took the first double amputee back to, he didn't get credit for it because we were on the intel mission, but the first double amputee ever to go back to Afghanistan. And I mean, funny story, whenever we flew into Bagram there, they just let the tailgate, level with the deck. So it was about a 3-foot drop. Well, we were all kitted up and everything. So I mean, and I'm 6'2", 230 pounds, and my partner, and I'm not going to say his name because he's still active in the intelligence community. I mean, he's double amputee from right below his knees. You wouldn't know it by looking at him. Well, I jump off the ramp down to the ground. I'm walking away. The aircraft is still running, so it's loud. This guy jumps off the ramp and he breaks his ankle. Okay, the pin in his titanium pin in his leg
Oh,
breaks. Well, he's laying turtle on the tarmac, and the crew chief is just, and his foot's just flopping around. Well, crew chief didn't know that he was a double amputee, right? And I'm like, oh shit. So I throw down my pack, pull out a roll of duct tape, and I go over and grab his ankle, and I'm like wrapping duct tape around his ankle. And, and this crew chief was just looking at me like, are you but crazy? I mean, what are you doing? And I helped me back up, and I'm like, "Hey, where's the machine shop for the aircraft? Because we gotta get a pen made for his ankle." And anything, but anyway, so unique things, and like one night we were on the perimeter whenever Bagram got hit and got breached, and this was in 2008, I believe, and we were sleeping in a up armored Mercedes Benz there by the back gate, but down there by the diff, and you know where that is. You said you've been there, and we got hit, and so I'm sleeping in the front seat. Okay, with the seat kicked back. This guy's sleeping in the back, which isn't that big because if he takes his legs off, he could fit back there, right? And I heard something in combat that I'd never heard before because like I'm getting out with my M4, getting ready to get in the fight, and he's yelling at me, "Throw me my legs!" Okay, I'm just not something you hear every day,
Show
especially
me
in a
my legs.
firefight. Some guy yelling at you to throw him his legs so he can get into it too.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, we were, I still actively involved, and we recruited a lot of guys. Well, at least one a class that we put through. We put through 4 classes a year, and a very strenuous course. It was a 10-week course for just interrogation, and they were all Marine Raider. I mean, we did some Marine Raiders, we did SEALs, we did Special Forces, all of and the different 3-letter agencies. They'd send us their people because they were all the people that were going down to Gitmo to do the interrogations and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. That's crazy, Dave. I mean, I'll tell you what, I am loving this interview. I mean, this conversation, it's not even an interview, it's a conversation. You just a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of experience. You said it yourself. When you transition, they're not paying you just because you did four. They're paying for your experience. They're paying you for your leadership. So it sounds like you're actively recruiting Marines in any DoD branch to stay in as long as you can. Is that accurate?
Well, yeah, like I said, I mean, take advantage of what you can. Don't ever turn down a school. Well, I mean, if you can go to, if you can get additional or training of any type. I mean, I was lucky because they were just standing up. Ronald Reagan came in and into the presidency, and all of a sudden, we got an 8% pay raise. And back then, we had flak jackets with the fiberglass plates in them. Back then, and all hand me down stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, all of a sudden we were getting brand new equipment, and the intelligence community, we were getting all this kind of money and stuff to do training. And I mean, I can't even begin to list all the schools I've been to, but, they cross train in Marine Corps counterintelligence. You cross train, you go to interrogation school, you go to all these various different schools and usually language schools and things. But you get to go to things like, defensive driving course at Bill Scott Raceway. You get to go to, to DAME, which is Defense Against Mechanical Entry with lock picking stuff. You get to go to all the comm schools. You get to, I mean, I could talk all
So
day,
that's
long
enough.
if I
I
needed
think
to
I
about
don't know if
wave
you're
propagation.
I don't know if
Go
you're
ahead.
gloating. I don't know if you're gloating in your experience, or you're sharing your wealth, but I'm a little jealous. That's not fair. Maybe I should ladder move.
Well, I mean, my point is that don't ever turn down a course. Don't ever turn down training. And, I mean, I could tell another story whenever we first started up, door kicking on the sock mute. I was on the very first mute sock, and they brought up the green beanies from Bragg to teach us how to shoot. Right, so we're going to bring the Army up to teach the Marines how to shoot. Right. Well, these guys have been doing that type of shooting. It was a different type of shooting, and they show up the first day and they've got a bunch of these Red Ryder BB guns with no sights on them, right? They'd filed the sights up from 'em. They're saying, we're going to teach you how to point shoot. And we're like, who the crap are these jokers? I mean, wearing their little berets and anyway. And trust me, I've got lots of friends that are Green Berets, and I give them crap all the time and good fun, right? And because they're very good at their job. And believe it or not, I mean, just in a matter of a couple days, I mean, they had us shooting, dime-sized targets at 7 yards, point shooting, just up and just shooting.
Yeah.
Uh, and they did teach us things that we didn't know. So my point is it's get out there, get the training, request the training, and because all of those things can be applied. You wouldn't think that point should be applied in the civilian world. Well, it's not that; it's the discipline and the confidence to be able to do stuff like that that carries over
Yeah.
and everything. Uh, I mean, I would encourage, and I've met so many guys that were in 8, 10, 12, even 14 years that got out. And I guarantee you 90% of those guys are better. At some point in their life, going to say, I wish I'd stayed in.
Yeah. Agreed. I think so. I think the 10-year mark is like where you really should consider if you're going to get out, you shouldn't go past 10.
Well, that's like swimming halfway across the English Channel and then saying, I can't make it and swim back. I mean, that to
Yeah,
me, that's
that's fair.
insane.
That's fair. That's a
Now,
fair
I
point.
understand everybody's situation's different,
Yeah.
I mean, it could be family, it could be, a lot of different factors. But yeah, but I'll tell you this, I retired whenever I was 38, and having that retirement and the insurance and everything else, I mean, has allowed me to do things that most people don't get to do,
Yeah.
you know?
Agreed.
So I think about it, and I know a lot of guys. I've got a lot of guys on my team that were in the Marine Corps, and they got out and they end up having to join the Army Reserve because there weren't any Marine units around
Yeah.
where we operate at, and so they're doing their reserve time, but they're not going to get their retirement until they're. I'm not sure what the
I
reserve
think
is.
it's either 58 or 62, one of the two, where you could pull retirement.
Yeah, something like that. I
Yeah.
mean, it's way down the road.
Yeah.
Promotion guys. I mean, it's way down the road. I mean, I'm past my expiration date, but whenever you get out and you're 20 something or early 30 something, I mean, that's a long time before you're seeing any benefit for that. And from what I've seen, especially my guys that are in the reserve right now, boy, they make it just as difficult as they can. I mean, it's not an easy path. The
No.
reserves is.
No, I agree.
I mean, it takes a lot of time. Sorry, I'm not letting you talk, Kenny. Go ahead.
It's no, this is a great conversation. I appreciate your time, Dave. Let me ask you something. You said you're into books. Let me touch that piece a little bit. Obviously, with your wealth of experience, whether in uniform or civilian, there's a little bit of trauma, just a little bit, right? Uh, to say the least. Talk about that trauma, some of that adversity that you felt there, that it kind of rolled over to your just life in general, to your family, to your kids. Talk about that adversity with the trauma and how were you resilient coming out of it?
Well, I mean, there are always adjustments you have to make. And, you go from, especially like the long tours, 3 years in Iraq and 5 years in Afghanistan and stuff, where every day you're carrying a weapon, every day that you're having to watch over your shoulder, that, you have to worry about not only just, I mean, and you were there. I mean, the, you just don't get in a vehicle and drive. And we used to, I mean, myself and the colonel, the unit I was with, we'd get in a vehicle and we'd drive from Bagram to Jalalabad, just the two of us. Or we even drove once down to Kandahar, just the two of us. I mean, the stress becomes normal, okay, and everything. Well, whenever you all of a sudden don't have that, okay, you can catch yourself finding yourself making stressful situations.
Mm,
And you've got to be cautious about that because, just the way we talk and we're both tailoring our talk right now because this is for public consumption. And just the manner that we talk and with each other, and you can't do that in the civilian world. You can't do that. I mean, I've gotten in trouble before in board meetings and stuff and literally got cautioned about intimidating people, where you're trying to make a point where you'll stand up, or like lean across the table or put your hands on the table. In the civilian world, that is very aggressive. That's considered very aggressive. That's just a Marine Corps meeting, I mean, if you don't
yeah.
have yelling, then it's probably nothing going on, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not saying we yell at each other, but we talk
No,
forcefully
yeah.
at each other if the situation dictates. And I mean, that just goes back to I can remember a time where we didn't have name tapes, right, in the grunts, and you'd yell, "Hey, hey, Lance Corporal!" Well, every lance corporal, if you were, I was a sergeant, if every lance corporal within your hearing would turn around and look at you to see if you were talking to them. You didn't need name tapes. I mean, we fought that crap hard. We did not like that at all. And of course, we lost and we've got name tapes now, right? But still yet, I mean, you don't look for somebody's name tape. I mean, if you need to talk to them or
Mm,
something, so those type of things don't carry across. And like I said, you end up creating stressful situations to feed that need for adrenaline and everything. And also, a lot of guys, when they get out, they'll get into dangerous sports to feed that. Hell, I've had my 3 12-year-old, they've been two-party rock climbing since they were 8 years old. I mean, I've had them climb 80, 100-foot climbs, supervised, of course, and I'm belaying them and everything. But I mean, you expose them to things like that so that they know that they can do it and everything. But, uh, but Marines typically are high octane for the most part anyway, and they're going to, go to the skydiving and the rock climbing and things like that.
wow.
You can feed some of that with that. I don't know of anyone that served in actual combat that doesn't have some form or part of PTSD on that. I mean, hell, my wife did 3 tours in Afghanistan, and she wasn't a FOBIT either. But I can't really get into that. But I mean, she's it, and we have some very interesting conversations sometimes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, the transition is you've got to just stay focused and find those releases that can feed that to take the edge off. And I'm not talking about alcohol and stuff like that. I mean, whenever we'd go to Walter Reed to recruit people and stuff, I have seen so much people hiding within, using medicine and things like that. Get to the gym, get into 3 gun, get into, whatever you need to feed that animal inside of you that you need to take the edge off because it would be very easy to, to seek solace in alcohol or drugs or anything. And a lot of guys do. And you need to reach out to your brothers at that point and talk to them and get them involved in something that will to refocus them
Yeah,
on that.
that's good. I'll tell you what, I can relate to that. Don't create stress. I find myself so I went to Afghanistan, I came back to Kuni, then I went to go do the drill instructor thing. And those two experiences for me were high tempo, high stress environments. And I find myself still trying to create high stress environments, even at home. And my wife tells me all the time, it's wild that you say that. That's kind of you mentioned kind of who we are. It's just we have to be in stressful environments for us to execute accordingly or properly. That's wild. I tell you what. Obviously, you were resilient because you're still here in front of me, right? You didn't let those little battles get to you and get to your mind. That's a it's a good point, Dave. But for some of us, that transition out of the uniform, we don't have the tools. But yes, we do internally, intangibly, we have the tools, but we suffer because we lose purpose, we lose the mission set, we lose how to execute. Talk to those guys that are about to be over the edge, or those Marines, those sailors or airmen, whoever it is that they're going to take the 30-inch step in the wrong direction. Give them a tool right now for them.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I would highly encourage anybody to do, and I know there's some people that have bad experience with it, but for the most part, it's very good. Seek out your local VFW. Okay. Because what you can do, and I still do it every Friday. I'll go to the VFW on the way home from work and I stop. I'll have a couple beers, but you're surrounded by people that understand you. Okay. And you don't have to, you don't have to talk about anything in particular, but just go in there. And I'll tell you what, I've been in quite a few VFWs. First thing I do, I walk into VFW and I buy a round for everybody at the bar, and just to get the conversation going. And believe it or not, I'm an extreme introvert. Okay, I can be an extrovert. I can act like an extrovert, but it's exhausting for me. It takes a lot of energy. A lot of Marines are introverts, okay? They don't know how to break that ice. Go into VFW, introduce yourself, And I guarantee you there are some other jarheads in there. I guarantee you, if you walk in there and like I walked in a place in Utah at BFW and I said, hey, you've got the Marine Corps plaque in the wrong spot. It should be in the number 1 spot, the number 3 spot. Well, in actuality, it's not in the number 1 spot whenever you line them up in regulation. And of course, all the Army guys were like, "Oh no, no, that's not right." But all the Marines immediately identified themselves and said, "Yeah, we've told them that before." So you can find your niche very quickly. But things like the VFW, I have found also that, and a lot of people don't have time for this. Like I don't have time for it. I don't ever coach my own kids' teams other than the shooting teams. I don't coach because I'm not a good coach. I don't want him out there chasing butterflies and stuff, soccer and stuff. But anyway, get involved. I don't care if as a coach or a volunteer uh, on that. I don't like people enough to volunteer a lot. Okay, I'm just being truthful, but I do help out a lot. Whenever a bunch of us will find out a veteran needs his lawn mowed or something like that, I'll go help out on that. But now, if you're asking me to stand in front of a bunch of people and I was an instructor for years, and I've instructed, I've had done seminars that have had 2,000 people in them, uh, and I still go and teach, like at colleges and stuff like that about creative writing and everything. Even though I'm believe it or not. I mean, I don't even have a degree, but I'm a guest lecturer there. Uh, uh, you just have to get involved with something, find something, and get involved. And I don't care if it's just a gym. Okay, get back into that routine of going once a day because you've got to get yourself. You cannot just sit and waste yourself away. And it's easy to do. You can do that.
No, yeah, it's true. Find purpose. Find whatever it is, just find purpose. It just changes from the commander's intent, the mission intent. It just changes. And that's good. It's good advice. I mean, we all say the same thing. It's easier said than done, but it starts internally for that service member transition. Now it starts with you, ladies and gentlemen. Take that 30th step in the right direction. Thank you, Dave, for that. Lastly, I mean, we got to cover. You talked about PTSD. You talked about adversity. You talked about your experience. Hit some of those books that you got going out online. We would love to purchase. We'd love to hear
Well,
about.
Uh, so actually, I'm gonna blame my wife. Okay, my wife by school training, she's an English lit major. Well, whenever I was in Afghanistan, the kids were young. I would write them stories, okay, as a way to kind of connect with them and everything over Skype. And whenever I got back, she started saying, "Hey, you should write a book." And I'm like, "Well, I'm still active in the intelligence community and everything else. I can't write a book." And she goes, "Well, write fiction. Write a fiction book." So I sat down and about took me about 6 months. I wrote a book, post-apocalyptic type, about a retired Marine and all this stuff, and I just put it out there. I published it on self-published and everything, and it just took off. It took off, and so now I've got a whole series. I've written 5 books so far in that series, and I'm not going to plug myself on your show. I mean, that's not what this is
Absolutely, this
for.
is a good conversation. I'm all about it.
But so I wrote this. So I'm writing book 6 now. Will be the last book in that series, and it was all adventure, survival type stuff, and it's done very well. They've all gone to number 1 in their genre. Not New York Times bestseller number 1, but I mean they do very very well. I mean I make more off my books than I do my retirement from the Marine Corps.
Wow.
Uh, this next series I'm writing is that I've started. I'm about halfway through writing the first book. Is going to deal a lot with PTSD and the struggles. It's still fiction, okay, but it's all applicable. It's all true and everything, and it's still post-apocalyptic, but it's going to deal a lot more personal with the PTSD and what these guys go through in the hospital and what these guys, the lack of resources. They're kicked out the door. Said, hey, yeah, you're good now. Go live your life. And there are support apparatuses out there but you have to seek them out and you have to know where to go. You have to ask the questions. And I would highly, I mean, anybody can ever at any time get in touch with me. Uh, I'm on Twitter and crap just because of my books. And Facebook and stuff. And again, just because of my books, because you have to market a little bit
Yeah,
to reach the crowd, to sell them. But I'll go to gun shows and sign copies of books and
so that's awesome.
VFWs and stuff like that. But
I'm talking to Mr. Famous, the Mr. Infamous
no, not
David
really.
Wilson, retired U.S. Marine. I'll tell you what, where can you what we're gonna do two more questions real quick, and obviously you got things going on, I got things going on. Let me ask you the two questions, two part. Where can they reach you at if they want to know more about you, Dave, and more about your books, or just more about you in general? We're trying to connect with you, and one last two. What give the floor is yours, 30 seconds. Um, anything you want to share? Any adversity resilience, last minute save rounds. Go ahead, floor is yours.
Yeah, the easiest way to reach me is I do have a blog website. It's called The Irritated Prepper. Okay. But you can find me on there and hit me up anytime. You can look up Lone Star Odyssey on Amazon and you can contact me through those websites. That that's the name of the series of books. I just said I wasn't going to plug them, but there's my plug, right? Lone Star Odyssey. Uh, but I would just encourage everybody to, the Marine Corps is a good vehicle to learn about life. And whenever you go to get out, reach out to people. And the last thing I must say is make sure you get all your medical stuff done before you get out. So whenever I got out, they came to me and said, "Hey, is there anything wrong with you?" I'm like, "No, I'm good." And this is after, multiple broken bones and severed Achilles tendon, the whole 9 yards. I was like, "No, I'm good." And I am still fighting the VA, okay, to get disability. All right. So, I mean, get all that stuff done before you get out, please, because once you turn in that ID card, I mean, it is extremely hard to get anything done. Hopefully, it's going to get better. VA is improving as it goes along. Yeah.
That's
Take
crazy.
care of yourself first
That's good. That's
and
good,
make
Dave.
sure that you do all of it.
I appreciate. I say,
And that's it. That's all I've got.
hey, no, this is a good gouge. The whole 45 minutes. This is great, sir. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your service, ladies and gentlemen. This is
Well,
Gunny.
thank you for
This is
yours.
absolutely thank you. This is Pit Talk, pulling pits and opinions with their host Gunny G, special guest David Wilson. Where service members help service members. Period. Follow, like, subscribe everywhere you get your podcast and on most social media platforms. Let us know how we're doing, ladies and gentlemen. Me and Chief Warrant Officer Wilson, retired. We are out, sir. I will talk to you later. I'll message you later. I do need some last minute things from you, but enjoy your day. I'll talk to you soon, okay?
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Bye bye.
Stand by, contact, ceasefire. Stand by, contact, ceasefire.
Pit Talk is a podcast featuring active service members who discuss their thoughts and opinions on various issues surrounding military life, current events, and history. The statements heard here are the opinions of its members and guests. These do not necessarily reflect the views of the Department of Defense and are not endorsed or sponsored in any way. Listener, viewer discretion advised.